Hello, welcome to Grandpa Reads Poetry. Today I'm reading a poem by one of my favorite writers, the American Wallace Stevens, who lived and wrote roughly in the middle of the 20th century. He was in many ways a surprisingly conventional man, an American businessman living and working in Hartford, Connecticut on the East Coast, who dressed in a suit and tie and shirt and carried a briefcase to work every day. He would write his poems sometimes in the early morning or evening, sometimes on his way to work, and hand scraps of paper that he'd written little bits of poetry on. He'd hand them to his secretary, who would type them up for him and put them in a file. He was such a brainy, methodical person. His poems reflect the thought, and there's a lot of underlying messages in his sometimes extraordinary imagery and imagination. This poem I'm going to read, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, a strange title for an unusual poem, I think demonstrates the sort of message that Stevens was trying to convey. This, I think, is telling us that there's always several ways of looking at anything, whether it's a problem, a work of art, or just another person, or an opinion for that matter. See what you think of this. I think it's just great. 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. 1. Among 20 snowy mountains, the only moving thing is the eye of the blackbird. 2. I was of 3 minds, like a tree, in which there are 3 blackbirds. 3. The blackbird whirled in the autumn winds. It was a small part of the pantomime. 4. A man and a woman are one. A man and a woman and a blackbird are one. 5. I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos, the blackbird whistling or just after. 6. Icicles fill the long window with barbaric glass. The shadow of the blackbird crossed it to and fro. The mood traced the shadow, an indecipherable cause. 7. O thin men of Hadan, why do you imagine golden birds? Do you not see how the blackbird walks around the feet of the women about you? 8. I know noble accents and lucid, inescapable rhythms, but I know too that the blackbird is involved in what I know. 9. When the blackbird flew out of sight, it marked the edge of one of many circles. 10. At the sight of blackbirds flying in a green light, even the boards of euphony would cry out sharply. 11. He rode over Connecticut in a glass coach. Once a fear pierced him, in that he mistook the shadow of his equipage for blackbirds. 12. The river is moving, the blackbird must be flying. 13. It was evening all afternoon. It was snowing, and it was going to snow. The blackbird sat in the cedar limbs. That's it. An extraordinary poem by a rather extraordinary man because he was so ordinary. Wallace Stevens, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. Thanks for listening.